Welcome to this edition of Game on Hockey. I am Graham Mosimann. This is your Game on Hockey show for October 25th, 2024, where we take a quick little rip around the NHL and all things hockey in under 10 minutes or less. That's a redundant statement. I guess it would be 10 minutes or less, not under 10 minutes. Hello, my name is Graham, and I'm a professional broadcaster. I'm Graham Mosimann. Excited to have you here today. Before we dive into the show, where we have a potential Alexis Lafreniere extension, which also tells us something very, very big about NHL prospect development. Also have an incredibly cool move by the owner of the Lightning. I know, when do you hear about rich guys doing cool stuff? It happens on occasion. And finally, the undefeated team that we are not talking about for dumb reasons. So before all that, though, I want to tell you about Hyperdrive Hockey. It's a show that you can find on the Game Over Network national YouTube channel. Give it a watch. Give it a listen wherever fine podcasts are sold, because Max, Stephanie, and Kevin dive into everything in the world of hockey in a little bit longer form than we do here on Game On, but it's also with a distinctly French-Canadian perspective, which, especially if you're out here in Western Canada like I am, it's, nice to hear different perspectives on occasion. So it's a very good show. They have a new episode coming out today. So with that, let's talk about Alexis Lafreniere. So looks like, by all accounts, industry sources, they say, big hockey insider man, that he is closing in on an extension with the New York Rangers at $7.6 million a season. Now, if you had told anyone in hockey that that was something that was going to happen like 3 years ago, would have looked at you like you had 17 heads. Because you don't have to go back very far to remember a point in time where Lafreniere was really, really considered a bust. He was playing with Artemi Panarin and couldn't keep the puck anywhere where it needed to be. His defensive game was horrendous. He wasn't physical enough despite having the size to be physical, and he just wasn't panning out like the New York Rangers had hoped when they won that draft lottery. I mean, Capo Caco was outperforming him at a time, and honestly, I'll be a little surprised if we see Capo Caco in the league in the next 3 or 4 years. Incredible to see how that prospect's career has kind of fallen. But it is an important lesson for anyone who's like either a hockey fan or an NHL team executive, that you can't take players, especially from the kind of 2020 era draft year, where there was so many things impacting their development, and letting that fully dictate what their whole careers are going to be. Now, it's been a few years now. I mean, the Panini was 5 years ago for when it got started, but from that really weird draft where he got selected over Zoom to his whole development cycle, it was all goobered up by the pandemic. And if hockey players need one thing, it is routine. And this is a really good lesson for really any developing prospect. You can't throw them out too quickly. You can't just let it your initial opinions take over, because these are literal children. Never mind the fact that your frontal cortex doesn't fully develop until you're 24, 25, even 26 years old. You're not even a fully grown human being. So really stoked to see Lafreniere hopefully get the bag with the New York Rangers. He deserves it. That team is a really interesting one. You have a whole lot of old dudes that are going to be making a lot of money. And who knows what happens with the Shesterkin deal, but Laffel will definitely be the long-term future of that team. And frankly, locking him in at just under $7.6 million, as per Larry Brooks, is a pretty great deal. Want to get into a very cool thing done by Lightning owner Jeff Vinik. Now, you may have seen that the Lightning have sold the majority stake of the franchise off to a different company. So Jeff Vinik will be taking kind of a step back and only being around as a minority owner, and he is paying out $20 million in bonuses to the organization's more than 300,000 employees following his sale of majority stake in the club. That coming to us from Alex Silverman, who's a sports risk reporter. He's really good. Definitely someone you want to follow if you're like really into the business of sport, the business of hockey. Um, it'll work out to each full time employee of the club getting a bonus of about $50,000 to $66,000. Literally life changing money that $20 million to Jeff Vinik is not a lot. It really isn't. So to see a rich guy doing a cool rich guy thing instead of a yes, I'm going to hoard all the profits, see, is a delightfully nice change of pace. I mean, $50,000 to $66,000. That's more than probably some of the full time employees make, especially if they're newer ones. Like that can take care of people's student loans. That can buy people a house. It's a really cool move. So hats off to Jeff Vinik. Could you ever see a Canadian owner doing that? Probably, probably not. Womp womp. We gotta talk about the Winnipeg Jets because they are 7-0, and no one seems to notice or care. The Flames finally have their first regulation loss against Carolina, so hey, wow. Good for the Flames. The Oilers are still trying to figure out what their season's like, and that's taking up especially the media narrative in Canada. You have Leafs, and then you have the Oilers being kind of a mess. And it's really too bad because the Jets, just because they're in Winnipeg, are not getting the amount of love and respect they deserve for the incredible season they've had so far. I have a theory as to why. If you think I'm crazy, let me know in the comment section. You can also rate this show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and let us know what you think because that also helps our algorithm out a ton. I'm going to guess the reason no one's really super hyped about this start for the Jets is because of how crummy they were in the playoffs. Like Connor Hellebuck turned into a pumpkin. So even though he's playing out of his mind and he's the best goalie on planet Earth right now, you were still kind of a butt in the playoffs, dude. Which is unfortunate because the hardcore Winnipeg Jets fans are over the moon hyped right now, and as they deservedly should be. That team looks legit. But when you have a situation where for years and years and years you get to the playoffs and kind of fizzle out and go nowhere, I can understand why everyone else is taking a little bit more of a wait and see approach. This Winnipeg Jets team, I mean, they have a lot of the pieces that you want to see from a Stanley Cup contender. The one thing I'd argue they're probably missing is that like super high end superstar forward or defenseman that you want to see. Although maybe we're just not giving Josh Morrissey his credit for how good of a player he's turned into. Even Neil Pionk, watching him play, especially compared to what you sent out to get him when the Jets traded Jacob Trouba to the New York Hockey Rangers. There's a lot of good pieces here for the Jets team. Never mind the fact that Nick Ehlers is also in a contract year. He's playing for a whole bunch of money. There's a lot of good stuff happening with the Jets, and I know our pals over at Game Over Winnipeg are just having a blast right now, as they absolutely deserve. So whenever you talk about the best team in hockey, put a little bit more respect on the Winnipeg Jets, because they 1,000% deserve it. That'll do it for this week of shows here on Game On Hockey. As always, I'm Graham Mosimann. If you liked the show, give us a like. If you loved it, give it a subscribe. It helps our fledgling little media company get in front of more eyes and ears so we can expand the hockey coverage in this country outside of the big three of telecoms. Have yourself a wonderful and safe weekend, and I'll talk to you coming up on Monday.